Welcome to part 2 of my lives today, which is opening everything that's arrived in the past few weeks in the same video because I don't have time to do them all as individual videos. This is the paint your style I just did. It is still on my desk because I've had no time. I literally just ended the last live. So let me take 2. I started the live and realized it was unlisted. So now it should be visible. That's great. I'm doing super well. So the Paint Your Style live just ended, and now we are on to swatching and looking at and opening everything new that has arrived or I've purchased. It's a pretty good mix of things I've been sent and things that have just arrived. Mostly because we were in the city, and so I got to go shopping. But also, like, 31 purple fish guppies arrived this week and stuff. So there is Dessert's Above Ground. Ferris Wheel Press Jubilee arrived this week. I take the label off of guppies so that I don't accidentally show my address. Apparently I have no Sharpie down here. Literally every bit of this address label is coming off except the part I need to come off. Super helpful. All right, 31 purple fish guppies. And then the replacement ink from Atlas arrived this morning. I'm just once again taking off my address label. Again, every bit is coming off except the part that I need to go off. Every single bit. Whatever. We're doing the heat gun trick. There we go. Because they're thermal printed, you can erase address labels with a heat gun. And it is my favorite thing in the studio when I get mail and want to do an unboxing. So, I've already opened these on Instagram Shorts and on Reels this morning. I have not opened the pen. But what I have not done is I have not swatched the Rolodex system. And so we're going to do that. We're going to open this. We're going to open these. And I pre-ordered some stuff from Above Ground. So what do I want to start with? I want to start with Atlas. There, I've made a decision. I want to start with inks. So I have, these are the 2 new Ferris Wheel Press inks. They're one of, I think there are 4 new inks coming out in March. There are 2 of the calligraphy inks. There's a new Fairy Tales, and then there's a new Everyday ink. And I got the Fairy Tales, one of the calligraphy, and a pen sent to me from them. I think the pen is a medium. Yes, it is. I do love the box art on this pen. And I love the color. I do like their carousel pens. I have one in aluminum. I find them pretty good for like just throwing in my bag. They're not super fancy, but they're practical. As always, it's got the little carousel nib. It's a very pretty blue color. I haven't swatched it yet. I'll swatch it in a video, probably in the next day or two. Inks, on the other hand, are absolutely stunning. There's the ultramarine. And where is the little sparkly? There's the little sparkly. And so it is blue with like a pinky purple shimmer. Actually, I'd say it's like a baby pink shimmer. And then the ultramarine, I was expecting like more periwinkle color, but it is very much ultramarine. I got too much on my swatch card and it like cracked, but that was a me. Their everyday inks are, this is an everyday, this is a calligraphy. I don't use them. You can't use them in fountain pens. They have to go in dip pens. And that is a level too complicated with the brain injury to remember. And so I just don't use them. Currently, I am holding on to them so that I can gift them to a friend. But they are really pretty colors if you do calligraphy with a dip pen. This Atlas package, though, is a replacement. I got a bottle of Storied Blue from them, and it swatched out teal for whatever reason instead of dark blue. I love their sticker. It's so pretty. And so this bottle is a replacement for that bottle. They were super great about it. As soon as I sent the swatch, they went, yeah, that's the wrong color. And sent a new bottle within like 2 days. I am in Canada though, so it took a little bit to get to me. Oh, I like their card. And here is the ink bottle, wrapped up very carefully. Anything else in the package? Nope. Let's see. Is there a way to open this and keep the bubble mailer? There is. There's a little tear strip. I like reusing my bubble mailers where possible, and it's not a bubble mailer, it's just a sleeve. Fun equals ink. Inks are so much fun. So this is now, this is my third Storied Blue. I have it in an ink charger, which is this size. This isn't it, but it's this size. I have it in a bottle, and now I have it in this bottle. Is this bottle going to be a different color? Is the question. Where's the Rolodex? Where's Storied Blue? F, P, R, Storied Blue. So there's the teal version. Do I have a swatch of the blue? I should. There's the blue version. What do we think bottle number 3 is going to be? Atlas has said they've swatched this bottle. Some lovely person named Alex in their shipping department was making sure that it was a blue bottle, not a teal bottle. The question is it, one, I trust that they've opened it and swatched it. Atlas has been lovely about this whole thing. The question is it like just like, is my ink charger the wrong color and the bottles are the right color? So let's, don't want to put a full thing down on my desk. Let's just grab the Tombow mixing palette, seeing as it doesn't get used for mixing on these days. And now it can just be used for like ink swatches once I get the paint off of it. So, it's a Storied Blue, bottle number 3. What color are we going to be? Oh, where do my Q-tips go? They're all the way over there. So I'm going to need them. This whole thing started because I wanted to ink up a pen with it, and I didn't have enough left in my ink charger to ink up a pen, and so I needed a bottle. And I am suspicious that this is the teal, but I might be wrong. Are you a third color? I think this Storied Blue is a third color. Oh, maybe not. Maybe we are. It's like it can't really figure out if it's this blue or if it's like just some third color. I now have 3 different bottles of Storied Blue, potentially. We'll see how this dries. So far, it dries closer to what I want. Actually, it might be that this is a blue bottle. If this dips the way I think it's going to dip, thank you so much, Atlas team. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like, they did not have to go through the effort of getting me a bottle shipped to Canada. They could have just said, yeah, no, not our problem. And instead, they, tested a bottle, got it shipped to Canada. And it's the blue! It's the blue version! Oh. So you can definitely, you can see the color difference in that, where one is blue and one is teal, sort of. I don't know if it's picking up well on camera. Oh yeah, of each other you can see it. So yeah, that's the drama for the bottle of Storied Blue. So now that that's drying, this Storied Blue swatch gets to go away. Because for now, I'm keeping the bottle. It's winter in Canada. 1, they said I could keep the bottle. 2, it's winter in Canada, and so there's really no good way to send inks right now. And so even if I was going to trade the ink, I'd still have to wait until sort of the summer, till it warmed up a little bit. And so I'm just going to hold on to it for the moment. And then we are going to swatch out the new Ferris Wheel Press Fairy Tales color, which is Unfettered Flight. I'm going to leave the pen. I'm not going to do the pen today. It is really pretty. I don't know if it's a color shifter. Yep, it's pink to gold. Cool, cool, cool. I do love color shifters in Watercolors. It sort of reminds me of like a Cinderella blue. Very pretty. I've already done a round swatch for it though, so I'm not going to do another one. I'll just put the lid back on, and I still need to write its name. This is number 3, I want to say, in the Fairy Tales collection this year. And is definitely one of my favorites. Probably in the Fairy Tales collection so far. I like the like subtle pastel-y colors. Like clearly like this is my favorite sort of blue, where it's a blue but it's not like a ballpoint pen blue. So let's put this away. Let's tuck a name on this. And then I will put all 3 of these away. Create ml. The Tombow blending palette is now my new on the table swatch card holder. So let's slide these out of the way. They still need to dry a little bit before they can go into the Rolodex. I did take out probably 100 cards just so that it was easier to flip, and just tucked them away because for the moment I don't need them. Which side's going to want to come apart? That side. We go all the way to the end. There's the periwinkle. The ultramarine. It's like in between ultramarine and periwinkle, I'd say. Goes very end. You are definitely like a sky blue. You're going there. All right. You're still damp. You go just behind. As soon as this is put together, I will flare them so that it gets to dry a bit more. If you watched part 1 of sorting out my ink swatches in the Rolodex system, you'll know why I've gone Rolodex cards and not the Colodex cards. As much as I love the Coloro ring, right now this actually has almost 100 cards on it. It comes with 50, and I've put most of a second round of cards on it. This is what I've got left in the second round of cards, just for simplicity's sake, and because I haven't figured out how I want to split this up. It'll probably be mats on one one ring and everything else on the other. But those are dry. So this goes in alphabetical order. So storied blue. We're going to put blue shade in front of green shade because B goes before G. And then unfettered flight. You can really see, I don't know that you can see it on camera, but you can really see it. It's actually sort of sunny today, and so like seeing it bounce off the sunlight is super cool. This is like an S, isn't it? It is. There we go. So there are all the ink swatches. I didn't do the calligraphy ink, much like why I didn't do the ink vials. Like there just isn't really a point, because I don't, well, for those like samples, like there sort of is a point to doing them, but like whatever, I haven't. Next up are 31 Purple Fish Guppies. I know what the names of the colors are. I think I screenshotted what the names were. Let's see. The names are Strawberry Peach and Whisky Haze. And so I get a quarter pan subscription. It's the only paint subscription that I'm part of this year. Last year, for a while, I was part of a second one. I prefer just being part of one, and 31 Purple Fish Guppies is the one that makes me the happiest. So it's just the one I stick to. Plus, I like that I get to pay for it once for the entire year. So this is Strawberry Peach. Did I need more 31 Purple Fish colors? No, but they're super fun to play with. Guppies is sort of an easy subscription if you manage to get a spot, in the sense that like every month you're getting colors that aren't in the shop for at least a year. And this is Strawberry Peach. Oh. Those are fun. So Whiskey is a haze color, which means it is going to granulate. Strawberry Peach, maybe a shimmer, I'm not sure. So I'm not going to use a nice brush for it, just in case. Grabbing 2 cards for each of them. I don't know that I'll need 2 cards for the Strawberry Peach, but I want to be prepared in case it's not a granulating color and it's just like super you gonna work, brain? In case it's not a granulating color and it just like has texture and stuff going on. It is far more green than I was expecting. I was expecting like a granulating brown, like sort of lunar rock-ish, but warmer. It is very green. I don't dislike it. I'm wondering if maybe it'll dry less green. Oh, there are parts that are drying quite orange. And for the sake of not getting a nice brush sparkly potentially, I'm going to use a Winsor Newton Cotton. I can't tell if this is sparkly or not. I don't think it is. I think it's just thick. I think we're just really, really thick. But I've known to be wrong. So last year, most of the guppies weren't labeled, and so I just labeled mine 1 through 12, whichever ones weren't labeled by the month. And so if they were labeled, like, I just skipped the numbering for that month. Let me know if you want a guppy recap video from last year, because I think it should be pretty easy to like pull together what were all the guppy colors last year. They were quite fun. And I think it was like October before I got a sparkly one, which is nice because my 31 Purple Fish palette is all matte colors. And so I liked that we had a good run of mattes before we got a single shimmer. I definitely thought this was going to dry more brown. It totally reminds me of Kelp Haze. I think 31 Purple Fish. 75% W. 31. Oh, purple wrong. But fish wrong. 31. Nope, that is not Strawberry Haze. That's Strawberry Peach. Okay. Whatever. I'll just re-swatch. There does sort of get to a point like when you just like decide to re-swatch colors instead of dealing with messy swatches. And I would say that like I definitely reached that point last year where I went, I'm done with like messy swatch cards. It's just not happening anymore. All right. So this is really Strawberry Peach. I think Strawberry Peach is my favorite this month. Well, of January and February. So they come out every 2 months. I really like the texture in it. Like Whisky Haze, especially diluted, still like has a nice texture, but I was expecting it to be more brown based on the name. So there are this month's Guppy colors. So the next package will be April, probably near the end of the month. They tend to show up like mid to end of the month, but they are always quite a lot of fun, mostly because a lot of the time they don't end up being shop colors. They're just Kelsey getting to play around with paint mixes. And so you really never know what you're going to get. These get to get tucked away. These get to go over into my swatches pile. And then we have, let's do Desserts. Well, we're going to open Desserts and we're going to open above ground because neither of them have a lot to swatch. So most of my Desserts was brushes. Because my tiny little round brushes are sort of on their last legs. And so I needed to pick up some more tiny little rounds. And I had already been to above ground and their tiny little rounds were a bit sad. And so we went to Desserts and their tiny little rounds were better. But they also had the Daler and Rowney brushes that I like in clearance for $3 a brush. So I grabbed one in size 4 in a brush that I actually don't have. I don't have a shader yet. I grabbed one in 0 and I think I grabbed one in 1. I did. And the thing that I was looking for was nice tips to the bristles. And then I grabbed 2 of the Dynasty, which was not a brand I'd heard of before, but one of the things I like about Desserts is that everyone there is an artist, all their staff members. And so they just directed me to the staff member that was a watercolor artist. And she and I talked brushes for a little bit, and she said the Dynasty ones were her current favorite for detail brushes because she knows that like you don't want to spend a lot on a detail brush if you're going to be going through them all the time. And so I got a 000, and then I got a number 2 because it has a really nice tip to it. And I normally don't use a number 2 that isn't my Tintoretto, but I was like, it's hard to find a brush that's tip is that pointy, and so I decided to grab it. I also grabbed the Rosa Gallery's Jade Green. They had it as a new color, and I liked the pigment combination. That was the only reason I bought it. It is PB28, PBK7, and PY42. And it's a fun pigment mix. The other thing is that our store, well, Desserts in general, are discontinuing Sennelier and replacing them with Holbein. And so on my store's website, it said it was totally out of stock of Quin Gold. But at the bottom of the shelving unit, like this tube had just like fallen out, and Quin Gold was the only Sennelier color I wanted because I love Quin Gold and they use a different pigment mix than everyone else. That being said, this tube is a little bit crushed and deformed, so I'm a little bit afraid it's going to absolutely explode when I open it. And so I'm going to open it with a pan ready to go. But I'm going to pop these brushes in. These brushes are all going to be matte brushes because I do not need any more shimmer brushes at the moment. I have enough. that being said, my matte brush selection is starting to run low, mostly because as paintbrushes get destroyed, they become shimmer brushes. And so I am just like starting to run low in my matte brushes. Whereas my shimmer detail brushes, I have an abundance. So here's a half pan. This is Quin Gold. Oh, I guess I should open the above ground as well, because there is one single pan that I got from above ground. I have a love-hate relationship with above ground. They carry things nobody else does. Their employees are really snarky at times. Picking up this order was one of those times, and like, I would rather go across the city to Gordesman's than shop at above ground. So I did get 2 more of the new dot cards in lights and darks for a video. So I think I'm going to do them how I did the exclusive colors dot card, where I'm going to do them each as their own individual video, because that was quite a lot of fun, and I haven't actually looked up the colors that are in these dot cards. And then I got a pan of their PG19 so that I have it in my palette, because when I was watching, there's an art trade show in Germany, and I was watching a video of another artist that was there. I caught what I think was a sneak peek of Schmincke releasing another set in the next few months. So I got a pan because it was impossible to find when I did the Schmincke series originally. But when I did the dot cards, I realized how important it was going to be if they did more super granulating colors that included PG19. The other thing we're going to swatch out if we have time is all of the things that I unboxed in my last video, because there are many of them, but I ran out of time. So about half of this Holbein palette is new, and all of these are new. And so if I have time, we're going to go through and we're going to open we're going to swatch everything properly, because I just didn't have time. To start with, though, we're going to start with this tube of Sennelier and hope we didn't explode. It is so liquidy in comparison to every other brand I've ever poured in a pan. So there's the Sennelier. Here's the Rosy Galleries. Oh, they're the ones that are so sticky when you take the labels off. I forgot about this. I don't have Bougon down here. I do really appreciate, though, their piece of paper so that nothing sticks. And the phone needs to charge, which means the mic's gone. Sorry. I have the option of the microphone or charging the phone. And seeing as this sort of needs power to continue to film, we're losing the microphone. Let me know if you can still hear, please. The Rosy Gallery pans, this one isn't as sticky as some of them, which is nice. Some of them get really, really sticky. This is Jade Green. And it is number 766. And then we have Schmincke. I hate these pans. These pans are a different size than normal half pans. They claim they hold the same volume. I'm sure they probably do. I wish they kept with the standard half pan size that every other brand makes. They are slightly wider and they are shorter, which means it's like awkward to put them in a palette with other pans. Do you have an empty half pan? I do. Like, it just, they're shorter and they're wider. So, and they don't, yeah. So, I wish they just like made standard half pans. This is cobalt green something. Cobalt green pure. There we go. Everything is now labeled. What are we going to start with? What are we going to start with? Do I want to start with Holbein? Or do I want to start with... Okay. These are Sennelier. It's funny, I'm continuing my pattern of like the 3 new colors I buy from brands. With Sennelier, like without even really trying. I got Indigo in a trade, and I got a pan, I got the tube of Quin Gold. We're gonna start with the 2 yellows that are in this, and they are these 2 top ones. One of them is a Cadmium, and one of them is a Gamboge. This is Cadmium. How much of this desk will be covered in swatches by the end? I think most of it. That's Cadmium Yellow Pale. This is Gamboge Nova. And these are all the dots that I melted down in my last unboxing live, which was last Thursday. So these were all a paint trade. Most of my Holbein palette was a gift from a friend from her tubes, and then the rest was all a paint trade from Facebook. And I'm starting with the yellows because I want to do them before the water gets all contaminated. Do I have my... I do. So pans that are a non-standard size get a little silver dot so that it is easier for me to tell what does not live in my palette. Like, this is the studio palette. System that I came up with, I want to say last year or the year before, and works quite well. And that's the top edge. The next one would be a green, so let's do the 2 Quin Golds. Because I now have Quin Gold from Holbein and Quin Gold from Sennelier. I knew I wanted to add the Holbein Quin Gold to this palette. It is such a pretty Quin Gold. The Sennelier Quin Gold was very much an impulse purchase. It was purely because Desserts had it in stock, and I was already going to look at brushes. But I knew with this little palette I wanted to add the Quin Gold. I would say that the Holbein one definitely reminds me of the Roman Small new version. Like, it's a much lighter yellow. And I don't know if it goes any darker than that. Both of my swatches have been about that tone. Oh, it goes a little bit. So that's Holbein. Holbein Quinacridone Gold. Does anyone have any favorite Sennelier colors? Like, they've got so many colors in the line that I just don't know sort of what to look at from them. Does it make a difference? I think I have to leave Indigo and that for last. So let's do Potter's Pink. That'll need to activate though. So let's drip some water on you. What other colors need to come out of here? Anything that's in a clear pan, but I want to keep these in like a semblance of order. So the cool thing about this Holbein palette, and the person I bought the dots from off of Facebook Marketplace, is that it was dead stock tubes that she had purchased, which means some of the pigment numbers are totally different now, including the fact that this one is PR88 and PW6, which is not even a color that they make in their line anymore. It is their violet gray, which wasn't a color that I'd ever heard of from Holbein, and it's because it includes the PR88 pigment that was discontinued in the early 2000s. So, what's next? Some greens. Let's do White Knight's Carmine. So White Knights were also part of our trade. She had extras of colors that I didn't have, and because I was buying from somebody that already had them in her collection, like, I don't know, it feels morally okay. Like, I'm not buying them direct from the company, I'm buying them from somebody who's like clearing out their palette. So I bought 2 colors that I've been wanting to try out. One of them is in black mix, and the other is their Carmine, which is PV19, which is a pigment that I quite like. It's Quinacridone Rose, and most brands are Quinacridone Red. Then we have Potter's Pink, which is the Winsor Newton version, which was also part of that crazy art trade. I think she traded me like 18 dots and 2 full pans, and I traded her like 10 dots and 2 ink samples, or no, 4 ink samples. Like, it was a huge trade, but that's what I love about swap groups, is getting to try out new products that maybe you wouldn't buy yourself. Or maybe you don't need like a full tube of. Like, my Holbein palette is a mini palette, and that's what I love about it, but I don't need full tubes of all those Holbein colors. I keep posting this pen. This pen is too heavy when it is posted. I need to just stop posting this pen. What's next? Let's do this one. What is this? Is this Permanent Magenta? It is. So I'm skipping the blues and the greens, and I'm sticking with like the warm colors now. Their Perm Magenta is very reminiscent of Quinacridone Purple to me. It doesn't feel like a magenta. I've looked at the pigment though, and it's PV9. Yeah, it's PV19. So it's the same pigment as Carmine. It just looks totally different. Magenta, which is an important, like, those are the same pigment. They look totally different, but they are technically the same pigment. The third goes here. I might rearrange this Holbein palette a little bit. I guessed where stuff was going to go based on sort of pigment numbers and how it looked in like my initial wet on wet swatches. Is that how you should be organizing a palette? No, not really. I like doing swatch cards and organizing it that way. But in the case of this palette, it was Thursday night and I was leaving Friday morning, and I didn't want a whole bunch of tiny pans just sitting on my desk for days. This is Bright Pink, which I think is another PV19. There's the little cheat sheet cards. Yep, Bright Rose, PV19. So all three, Carmine and these two, are the same pigment. They just look very different. And that's one of my favorite things about pigments. because those are all the same pigment. They look totally different. It doesn't come across on camera how purple this is, but this very much looks like a quinacridone purple. This is violet gray. So this is a color they no longer make because the pigment in it has been discontinued for a very long time. I think it was like 2006 the last brand made it. It's a great red. I have it in my palette. But it is technically a discontinued color is the base of this, and then it's mixed with white. I do wish it wasn't mixed with white. It would be nice to have a large brand version to go along with the handmade version I have, because I have the Cosmic Creations version of it that is the genuine pigment still. I think Dirty Blue just made a video on this pigment. Is it the Indigo? No, it's got a weird name. What's it called? PV8. Watercolor. Oh, it's PR88. That would help things. Indigo Violet. Like, it's a weird color, but it's also super cool. It's one of my favorite sort of unique colors in my palette. This version is mixed with white. And I do wish it was just the regular version. But it was not an option to get just the regular version, so I got the mixed. Then we have Quinacridone Magenta Rose Violet, which is my favorite version of Quinacridone Magenta. It is the PR122 version, which is the version that Cosmic Creations makes. It's just so bright in comparison to the Daniel Smith version, which is PR202. And I prefer the brighter version of Quinacridone Magenta. Holbein. Rose Violet. Then we have Crimson Lake. I already have a version of Crimson Lake in my palette, but what I have is their new version, which is a different pigment number. Again, these were dead stock tubes that she had purchased, and so the pigment numbers are different. And I have to say the Crimson Lakes do look different, and so I am happy that I picked up this other version. I really picked it up just to compare, and because I thought it was sort of cool to have the new version and the old version. I would say that the new version, the old version sort of reminds me of Cosmic Creations Cranberry, which is a PV19. It's a really dark PV19. But the new version is like more purpley a little bit. Crimson Lake. Oh, I think we're down to like less than 15 colors to go. Here's Permanent Orange, Yellow. Permanent Yellow Orange. After this, we are going to do the Winsor Newton Orange. Really, this order was about rounding out colors in my Holbein palette. I went pretty pink. There's no denying that. Like there was no need for all these pinks. But I like them. I would say that the palette probably could still use some more like darker colors. But I still have 3 spots that are empty. So I will be adding 3 more colors to it at some point. I'm thinking about a granulating black. They do have one that I quite like. And then I don't know what else I'll add. This is the Winsor Newton Transparent Orange. It's just labeled DDP or DPP. Don't know what that stands for. It's labeled the same thing on the Winsor Newton website when you look under pigment. So that isn't super helpful. It is a very pretty orange though. I think it is probably in like my top 5 oranges that I've ever swatched. It's not quite as fantastic as Beam Pumpkin is. It like doesn't have the moodiness that that color does, but it is still a super great color. You might notice that I haven't put the dots on my Winsor Newton swatches, and that's because I think that they are going in their own section of the swatch book in what I call the mini travel palette section, which is different than how I organize the Holbein swatches. So I'm not putting a dot on them yet. That might change. We'll see. Raw Umber is up next. It's quite a warm raw umber. It's definitely more gold than I was expecting, but it is very pretty. And I think it rounds out the palette browns nicely. down to white, which is always joyous fun to swatch. There. Titanium white. Which goes in there. Those are greens. Those are blues. Let's do greens next. So we have a Rosa, a Schmincke, a Holbein, and a Winsor Newton green. For the sake of my mental health, we're wetting them all. I know that one's gonna need to sit. So, permanent green number 3 is up first. Can we not? This is another discontinued color. I've already got permanent green number 1 and number 2. And so it just seemed like a smart idea to add number 3, especially as it's been discontinued. I do really enjoy the Holbein mini palette, especially when I travel. It's just like an easy palette to travel with. And it was nice, like it was still nice to paint with before I rounded it out with these new colors. But I think these new colors are going to make it even more useful for me as an actual artist. Before I was just going with what the standard botanical set colors were. And while they are nice, they're not exactly what I paint with. This is the Winsor Newton Terre Verte. This is the old version because currently it is out of stock basically everywhere because they are reformulating it. And so this is the version that still contains Viridian. I don't know why they're pulling Viridian from a whole bunch of their paints, but they are. And not just in watercolor, they seem to be doing it in their oil paints as well. So this is and I did look for their what's it called? Their yellow shade. Their yellow shade is just PG 23. Of course, it is the one color I can't find from the Winsor Newton line. Nowhere seems to have it. None of the stores that stock Winsor Newton have it in their display as like an option. So like it wasn't even out of stock. So I don't know that it's actually available in Canada, which is a bit sad because Jackson's does not ship Winsor Newton paints to Canada. And so far, Jackson's is the only place I found it. So this thing looked like it could be super fun based on the in-store swatch of it, which maybe. I'm still like not sure if I like Rosa Gallery paints or not. This one seems less sticky than some of them. Some of them just absolutely stick to my brushes and I'm not a fan. Now we are down to the last, however many, last 4 colors. We have Schmincke Cobalt Green Pure, which I could not find when filming the Schmincke series. And I'm actually going to pull out the Daniel Smith dot to show you why it made such a difference, the difference in PG-19s. I believe Daniel Smith has now discontinued their version. That's the Daniel Smith version. It is significantly more granular and the binder sort of separates out of it. And like they're so different. So I now have the Schmincke version. So Schmincke releases more super granulating colors. I now have the right green, but it was nowhere to be found when I was doing the Schmincke series originally, and none of the art stores could order it in. So at least now I've got it. Now we have 2 blues and a black. We're going to start with a royal blue, which is the last color in the Holbein palette. It is PB60. I would say it's a pretty light PB60. Like it's not... PB60 is normally Inton Throne blue. I was expecting darker. Again, I did this entire Holbein palette without actually looking at swatches, which is not how I would like do a palette normally. And it's not how I would recommend to anyone to do a palette, but I was basing it all off pigment numbers. Not how you do a palette. And I knew that based on what I had in this set, I needed a darker blue that I actually used more. Right now it just has in ultramarine and Payne's, and I do like their ultramarine, but I don't actually use Payne's all that often, so I needed something else. And there's the last Holbein color. Now this gets its cap back on and gets to go away. And I get to do the last 2 swatches. So this is Sennelier Indigo. And it's really funny to me that I got 2 of my 3 sort of test colors for a brand. I tend to test with Sap Green, Indigo, and Quin Gold if a brand has those 3 colors, because they are colors that I actually use, and so even if I absolutely hate the brand, like I'll be able to go through those colors at some point. I picked up the Sennelier Indigo because at the time I was getting ready to film the Indigo video. It's already come out though. I picked up Sennelier Quin Gold just like a couple days ago because I liked the like color formulation for it and it was on clearance. And I didn't buy Sennelier Sap Green, which is really funny because they're my 3 test colors and I have 2 of the 3 now. Is anybody else really weird and just has like the same three or a few test colors in every brand? I will say Sennelier Indigo leans very turquoise. It is a very pretty dark turquoise. I don't know that I'd call it an indigo. And then we have White Knight's Neutral Black as our final color. This is a pretty, is it a mixture of 3 or 4 pigments? I think it's a mixture of 3. And it's a pretty nice mixture. I did look up, again, I didn't actually look up swatches of these colors. All I did was look up the pigment mix and I went, this could be really nice for like single tone paintings. So I got it. Let's do a really diluted swatch. Just of what's like sticking in my bristles. I'm gonna say something absolutely shocking. I think I like this more than Daniel Smith's Neutral Tint. And I think I like this more than most indigo mixes that I've tried. It feels much more indigo than a neutral black. That being said, like it's quite pretty and it's got the sort of, yeah, I think I like it better than the Daniel Smith Indigo. One, that's not an indigo. That is like a dark phthalo, maybe a Prussian blue. It's not an indigo. It is too turquoise to be an indigo. I think I probably knew that from the little swatch card, that it was too blue. Let's grab who's got an Indigo Genuine. There's an Indigo Genuine. So there's an Indigo Genuine. And there's the Daniel Smith Indigo. And like that just looks like a dark turquoise. I would say it's pretty similar to you're a little bit more blue. Yeah, your friend is there. Your friend is Indigo Green and Schmincke Haze Indigo. You are not in the realm of Daniel Smith Indigo and Indigo Genuine. Which is why you buy samples before you buy a full tube of something. Which I don't always follow, but I do try my best to. So let's tuck that away. that away. Let's tuck both of these away. And I would also say that neutral black, I don't know that it feels black. It sort of feels pain. No, you're darker than Pains. You're darker than that. There's a neutral tint. Okay, I like neutral black more than neutral tint, I think. Neutral tint oftentimes feels too purple to me, and I think neutral black is sort of the blue version of neutral tint. Blue-green. So, it's not as Pains as I thought it was. It is definitely like in the black realm now that it's dried down, but it's definitely not like a true black, if that makes any sense. Where do you belong? You belong there. Oh, I labeled one. My Holbein swatches apparently did not get a dot originally, but they also got their tube numbers. So I'm going to have to go through and figure out all those tube numbers for all those Holbein colors. That'll be fun. Because I didn't write them down because I don't know what they are. So that'll be fun. Jade Green by Rosa Gallery is drying. There is sort of some granulation. I would say that all of their paints pretty much granulate the same way from what I've seen so far. It is pretty similar, like granulation pattern wise, to their cobalt gray. Like it's got the same sort of feel to it. But what green do you actually remind me of? You're sort of like one of the test colors for the Misty Morning palette. In all honesty, I don't actually have anything like it. It's just the way it granulates that bugs me. It's the fact that it, like, all of the Rosa Gallery's paints granulate the same way. And it doesn't... Where's something that sort of has a more organic feeling granulation to it? Okay. Here's a 31 Purple Fish paint. Its granulation, like, feels sort of more organic. The Rosa Gallery ones, to me, feel less like that, historically. I'm going to have to paint with the Jade Green and see if I still feel the same way. I will say, though, that it doesn't... If this was a black and white image, I don't know that I could tell the difference between Jade Green and Cobalt Gray. They are very similar in sort of how they look mass tone granulation wise and how they look when they've granulated out on paper. Like, there isn't a big difference. And I just think that there could be people absolutely rave about these paints, and I know I'm in the minority. But I've got a lot of experience with granulating colors, and I have never been able to get them to do what I've seen in the swatches. So, I'm going to have to play around with them a bit more. But for the moment, I'm glad that the paint was as inexpensive as it was. Not saying they're not good paints, they are. Like, they're fun to play with, but they're not paints that I often use in paintings with my professional palette. They're like, I need to play and clear my head paints in my palette. So we have all the Holbein swatches. Those are going to need to get put away. We also have the 31 Purple Fish paints that I swatched at the very beginning, which get added in. I thought that was similar to kelp. So let's pull out kelp. I think I'm right, that you're not far off kelp. Yeah, you're not far off kelp. Mass tone, like undiluted, fairly different. In kelp you see the blue. You can't actually see. In kelp you see the blue. In whiskey you don't. But I wish it was browner. I think that's my overall feeling, is that I wish it was browner. Where do you belong? You belong there. It's definitely going to take a while to put everything away. I think that's probably tonight's plan, is to tidy up swatch books before everything gets out of control. I don't know that I've got anything similar to Strawberry Peach. Let's see. I think I might. So Neon Peach is sort of like the same level of brightness, but as like an orange instead of a highlighter pink. There's another popular 31 Purple Fish color. This is Pink Salt, which is sort of the brightest pink I have from her, which is another really popular pink. Just so like you can see sort of the spectrum of. So this is new. This is a shop color. I think this is a shop color. Could have been Guppy's last year though. And I would say that, I don't know if the camera will pick it up. There is, like, this is very much highlighter pink, and this is very orange in comparison. So, I'm not unhappy with it. I'm sort of excited to use it in a piece. I do really enjoy her really bright colors in pieces. My business cards are actually currently painted with her paints because they're such fun bright colors that really catch the eye. So I think that's all the mail. Yeah, that's the Atlas. Ferris will press swatches. All of the paints. There's still the 2 dot cards, but they're gonna get their own videos. And it is now almost 4 o'clock here. It's been a productive day. So thanks for watching. Let me know if there are any like Sennelier colors I should be adding to my list, but also Holbein colors. I have 3 spots left in my palette. I know I didn't say what all the colors were that are in my Holbein palette, but I have 3 spots left, so I need suggestions for what to fill them with. Because currently, this is where we're at. And so I need ideas. Because I don't know what to do. So, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I do enjoy doing these things on live. They're more fun. And yeah.